Hello everyone, welcome to another RaceRoom video, and we've taken a very late decision to enter this Lotus GT4 race at Zolder. There was less than 1 minute of qualifying left when we hopped into this server, so I haven't had time even to do one lap, and as a result we're going to be starting at the back of the grid. Now normally I like to set a target for the race based on my qualifying performance, but we've got nothing to go on here, so this race is going to be a lottery. I'm certainly no stranger to the Lotus. It's my GT4 car of choice in RaceRoom. However, I haven't driven it now for a good 5 weeks, so this will take some getting used to. It's a unique car with its own quirks, so the first couple of laps here are going to be all about refamiliarising myself with it, not pushing the car too hard, try and find its limits on this Zolder circuit. We've started 14th on the grid, got away reasonably well as we reached T1 on the inside. One of the blue cars in front looks like he's missed the apex completely. That's Ian Anderson. He's out onto the gravel. Another car in front also on the gravel. Manages to get back on and hold his position though. So we've gained 1 place as Anderson drops back. And I'm just being reminded of how understeery this Lotus can be. We had real difficulty making that sweeping right-hander there. As a result, we've left a gap wide open for Gottsberg to go through. We might be able to get back up the inside. There's a yellow flag out. Oh, there's a car right in front of us. We had to take a void in action. We only had 1 way to go, and it sent us into the barrier. We were facing the right way at least, but we have picked up some suspension damage, and the rest of the field, well, they've cleared off. We've got a lot of work to do here now. Yeah, bitterly disappointing start to this race. We're the orange and black Lotus at the back of your picture, but watch the 2 blue cars, in particular Ian Anderson on the outside. He's going to run it in way too hot and go out onto the gravel. That'll give us 1 position back as we approach T2, but then it all went downhill. Keep your eye on Ruben in Ariza. He's the second of the yellow and green cars, and he's just going to carry a bit too much speed into this right-hander. The rear steps out, he hits the wall, and then crucially rebounds into the racing line. I had nowhere to go. I'd committed to the inside line to try and get past Berg, and there you can see I had no time to react. We slide into the barrier, and we pick up some suspension damage. A disastrous start to the race here at Zolder, but we've got 14 minutes to try and recover it. Well, in terms of position, we're actually no worse off as we end this first lap because we're in 14th place, and that's exactly where we started on the grid. However, we are carrying damage now. This car isn't handling the way I expect it to. Now, that might just be a lack of familiarity, but it might be the damage. However, we have just posted a purple 3rd sector at the end of that first lap, so that gives me encouragement that we've got the pace here to close in on this pack ahead. It's Ian Anderson who's directly in line of sight. Anderson's in 13th, and we saw him run onto the gravel at T1 on the opening lap. But it would be great to get back on his rear spoiler as quickly as possible. Someone else has been out on the grass there. That's Xuanzhou. Now, are we going to be able to get 1 position back here? He's down on speed. There's another car in the gravel, so we're going to get 1 position. We might get 2 because we've got the run on Xuanzhou here. We're side by side as we make the charge into this chicane. We're on the outside. This is going to be tricky. We might just have to relent here and let Xuanzhou keep that position, but we've certainly got the pace to challenge him. And in all that excitement, there was a blue Lotus way out into the sand on the left. That was Gare Peters, so he's dropped down to 14th. That's promoted us up 1 position. Again, we have a look on the outside of Xuanzhou here, but it's really tight through these chicanes. We're right on his tail now, putting him under all kinds of pressure. I certainly feel faster than him through this section, so if we can just get our exit right, get on the gas a bit quicker, we should be able to pull alongside. We're side by side, and we're going to have the inside line for this upcoming hairpin. As long as we keep it tight, this should be 12th position sewn up. And it is. We've picked off 2 positions on this lap. However, it's not done yet. Xuanzhou could still bite back into the final chicane. We've got to make sure we stay on the front foot here, not allow that to happen. We need to make the apex first. We have done. So we get through this final chicane to end lap 2, up to 12th position. Yeah, it was a coming together between Peters in the blue car and Xuanzhou in the white that helped me get back into contention here. Just the slightest contact that sent Xuanzhou onto the grass, and then at the next corner, Peters' line is all wrong. He runs it in way too hot, and he's out into the sand. That promoted us up to 13th, and we were all over the rear of Xuanzhou, but it took the best part of a lap to make the pass stick. Finally, we get up the inside into the hairpin. A textbook Zolder pass, and we're up to 12th position. Well, we're back to chasing Ian Anderson again, and it does feel like we're closing in on him quite quickly. Now, Anderson's got a higher rating than us. He's in the 1700s, so it might be that he's being held up by Per Carroll in 10th. If that's the case, we've got to capitalise on it now and get on to the tail of these guys. And look how quickly we close in coming into this chicane. I said earlier in the race that I felt really strong through this section, and we have closed the gap right down on these two here. Anderson will no doubt see me closing in his rearview mirror, so he's going to be more keen than ever to try and get around Carroll now to take that 10th position. Will he go for it into the hairpin? Well, he might have a golden opportunity because Carroll's run out really wide. They're side by side. There's a little bit of contact. More contact. The three of us are separated by just 0.3 of a second. I've got the inside line. We've pulled alongside Anderson here. We might be able to make that past it. In fact, we might be able to pass both of them at the same time. And we have done. We read that situation perfectly, put ourselves in the best possible position to strike. An opportunistic pass there, and we have jumped from 12th to 10th. And throw in another purple sector too, this time in the middle section of the track. I'm feeling confident here that we can still get a good finish. Yeah, talk about being in the right place at the right time. Carroll and Anderson battling hard. That gave us the opportunity to take both of them on the inside into the final chicane. We're up to 10th. We've still got a good 9 minutes of this race left, and we've got ourselves to within 3.5 seconds of the driver in 7th, so there's still all to play for in this race. Thomas Hild and Kevin Jelfs are next in sight. They're battling pretty hard for that 8th position, but the yellow flags are out, so there might be an instant a bit further ahead. There is a car rejoining at the hairpin. This is going to close the pack right up. We're now swarming over the back of that blue Lotus, but it's going to be difficult to get past because there's another car in the mix now. Oh, and there's contact between Hild and the driver rejoining, Alexander Might. We've got no choice but to go 3 wide in the middle, but we've got past Might. We're on the outside of Hild into the hairpin. Can we dart up the inside? We might be able to because Hild's out onto the grass. He rejoins and we rub doors. We're side by side on the charge to the final chicane. Hild's got the inside line, so he's surely going to have the advantage unless we can brake a little bit better. He pulls it behind us and gives us a big whack. Thankfully, we managed to keep the car in a straight line. And we've picked up another 2 positions that lap. We are now up to 8th place. Yeah, Alexander Might was running in 2nd position when he fell foul of this chicane, just running it in too hot, clips that curb on the inside. He was lucky not to damage his suspension actually, but then when he did rejoin, he gets a bump in the rear from Hild for his troubles. That opens up a gap in the middle that we dive into. We're 3 wide over the crest of the hill. Thankfully we get past Might, but we're pushed to the outside of the hairpin, so we can't make a move up the inside, but we can try and level the corner off early and get on the gas quicker. Look how wide Hild goes. He's way out onto the grass and he's got the advantage coming into the final chicane, but in the end he decides against challenging, instead tucking in behind and not before giving me a pretty hefty whack in the rear. We are making really good progress now. I've got the bit between my teeth and we're chasing down Kevin Jelfs. We could get better here. We could challenge for 7th position. Oh, but I could just feel the rear start to step out into this right-hander. There's no way of saving it. And with that, we've undone all of our good work. We can't even rejoin safely. There's another car coming by. And what an absolute disaster. I'm absolutely raging with myself. I've just driven 2 or 3 of the best laps I've ever done to climb up to 8th place. And within a split second, we've chucked it all away. Yeah, we threw it away at this corner in the first lap and we've done exactly the same again, but this time I've got no one to blame but myself and just carried too much speed and the rear stepped out. I am properly beating myself up over that mistake. Such a sloppy error. And after we worked so hard as well to make all those positions, probably some of the best driving I've ever done in RaceRoom, quickly followed by one of the most careless errors to undo it all. So now we're going to have to rely on freebies, and we might get one here because it looks like Alexander Might has come to grief again. Have we got the power to pull alongside him and get up the inside into the chicane? I don't think we have. It's probably safest just to ease off now, but he's been in the wars, has Might. He's surely carrying some damage. He's been off several times, so hopefully, despite his high rating, we might be able to get past him and get into 12th. I always feel quick through here, although a little bit too quick. We almost got caught out there and then we downshift into neutral by mistake. That's going to cost us some speed on exit. And yeah, no sooner do we get right behind Might, we lose ground on him. He's broken away now and it's back to 1.2 seconds, the gap. I can certainly sympathise with Might for his latest mistake. It's exactly the same crash that I did a couple of laps earlier, just losing the rear and sliding into the barrier. That allowed us to jump right on him, but we got a little bit too close into the chicane. I had to lock up on the brakes to avoid running into the back of him, and then we downshifted to neutral, which cost us some time. Returning to the live action a lap later, and as you can see, we've not been able to bridge that gap. Mite is now 1.8 seconds down the road. However, we're both closing in on pair Carroll. Carroll was 4 seconds clear of us a lap ago, and now that gap is halved, so we're clearly lapping a couple of seconds quicker. Mite now is right on his tail, so hopefully that's going to slow him down and give us the opportunity to close the gap, and indeed that's exactly what is happening. The gap now is down to 1 second. We've halved the deficit. And knowing how smooth we are through this next chicane, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we can close right in on these two. Yes, we have done. So we're in a three-way battle for 11th position now. We've got to forget about the mistakes we've made and concentrate fully on trying to come out on top of this tussle. Mite out on the grass on exit. That's surely going to cost him some speed, but I don't think we're quite close enough to have a look up the inside into the hairpin. But it has grouped the cars even closer together. Mite now all over the rear of Carroll. He's going to take to the grass to try and force his way up the inside, and there's contact. The two of them side by side as we race to the final chicane. Carroll is on the inside, but it looks like he's going to back out of it. Or is he? He's going to have one last look. There's more contact. Mite's out of shape, and they've both gone. Oh, big drama at the final chicane. I made the decision to sit back and let those two guys slug it out, and I'm glad I did. We ended up profiting with both positions, and that's put us up to 11th. Here's a replay. Watch Carroll in front. He runs wide on exit of the hairpin. That sends him onto the grass, which costs him speed. Mike takes to the grass on the other side to try and force a way through. There's a bit of contact. They're side by side. It looks like Carroll on the inside backs out, but then he has one final sniff. There's a bit of contact. That unsettles the rear of Mite's car, and as we know firsthand, once that rear steps out, it's almost impossible to save it. We're rejoining the live action with a little more than 1 minute left on the clock. However, the leaders are far enough ahead that we're going to get 2 more laps of racing. So the big question is, can we close in on these two drivers in front? They're 6 seconds down the road at the moment, but let's look at their lap times. They're doing 141s and 142s. We've just crossed the line with a 139.2. So we lapped 3 seconds quicker than Thomas Hild in 10th on that last lap. Hild currently 5.6 seconds ahead with 2 laps to go. We could yet close in on him and take that top 10 place. As we get on the gas through these sweeping right-handers, I'm looking at the clock going down. It's now within 5 seconds. We're certainly gaining, and we can see him in the distance now as well. That gives us a target to chase. And that gap is really tumbling down now. It's down to 3 seconds. Within 3 seconds, I suspect that he's either carrying damage or maybe he's conserving fuel, because he is really off the pace now, Thomas Hild. So this really is a golden opportunity to grab an unlikely top 10 finish here. We're going to close in again through this section. We know we're quick, although we may have pushed it a little bit too hard. The rear stepped out. Thankfully, we managed to save it, but that was a warning sign. Perhaps we shouldn't have been pushing as hard as we were there, because we know that Hild is down on pace. I think we just need to be a little bit more steady, and we should reel him in. Into the hairpin for the penultimate time. We're going to get 1 more lap after this one. That gap is down to 1.6 seconds, so we should be within striking distance very, very shortly. Oh, but it looks like we won't need to strike. He's gone into the pits. Yeah, we suspected that he might be running low on fuel, and that seems to be the case, because he's in pit lane and he's not even going to make it to refill. That Lotus is empty. So we're going to get a top 10 finish at least, but I can't deny that I'm not just a little bit disappointed. Had we planned and prepared for this race a little better and actually qualified, we could have been in with a real shout for a good finish here, although we might get 9th because there's a yellow flag out. Now, what has gone on up ahead? It looks like a pretty big incident, although we're going to have an incident of our own once again. We get it wrong into this chicane. Thankfully, we managed to save her on the grass, and we might still get that 9th position because Baptiste Leblanc is all over the place. Yeah, LeBlanc's race was done. He absolutely destroyed his suspension on those sausage curbs on the exit of that chicane. He was running in 7th at the time, but all you need to do is catch that curb slightly wrong and it'll ruin your race. Watch what happens when he tries to get back on the gas. The car just lets go again and he almost collides into Juan Zhu. In the background, you'll see me join in via the grass very shortly. There I am. Meanwhile, LeBlanc trying to rejoin, tries to get going, but again, the car is having none of it, and his race is done. So there we are, we're just working our way through the final chicane for the very last time, and we are going to bring it home in 9th place. Not a bad result, all things considered, and it was a really enjoyable race, but I just can't shake that feeling of frustration of maybe rushing into this race and not being quite prepared enough. Well, they say you get out what you put in, and if that's the case, we can't really grumble for not getting the result that we wanted here. Our fastest lap of 1:39.2 looks more than competitive enough to have challenged for a podium position in this race, but because we jumped in at the last minute, we bypassed qualifying and we put ourselves right into a race environment without any practice. Sadly though, time is tight at the moment and I've just got to grab any opportunity to race when I can, so I've got no grumbles about the result, and actually it was a really fun race, had a great time out there, mistakes aside. I really hope you've enjoyed watching it, and I'll be back on the grid again very soon where hopefully I'll be a little bit more prepared. Thanks for watching and I'll see you soon.